Welcome back to Mimi's Organic Eats. Today I'm going to show you guys how to make a 4th of July cream pie. This patriotic flag pie starts with a homemade vanilla custard. It sits inside a from-scratch Graham Cracker Crust with fresh-made whipped cream on top. Then I use fresh strawberries and blueberries from the farmer's market to create the patriotic flag design on top. While this pie looks seriously stunning, guys, it's really quite easy to make. And the flag design on top is so simple. Let me show you how to make it. To make this 4th of July cream pie, we are going to start with my traditional vanilla custard as a base, so we're going to make that first. So the first step to make homemade custard is we're going to add 1 cup of whole milk to a small pot. You guys can use any whole milk that you like, but it really needs to be whole milk. Do not use 2%, do not use skim. We want that milk fat for this custard. So go ahead and add that 1 cup of whole milk to your small pot. And now we're going to put this milk over the stovetop and put it over medium-high heat. We want to heat it until it reaches 140 degrees on a drink thermometer. Now, if you guys don't have a drink thermometer, a candy thermometer, a meat thermometer would also work as well, as long as it shows the temperature. And so if you don't have a thermometer, the main thing that you guys want to make sure is that we don't boil or burn the milk. And milk will burn at 160 to 180 degrees. And if you burn the milk, then that burnt flavor will transfer into the custard, and so we definitely don't want that. And so you can just use your finger test to see if the milk is warm, and then as soon as it's lukewarm, remove it from the heat. Think about if you guys were heating milk for a small child. You don't want it to burn their mouth, you want it to just be lukewarm so that they can drink it right away. And so that's what we're going for this milk. We just want to warm it up a little bit. So while the milk is heating, we're going to separate our egg yolks from our egg whites. Now we don't want to get any egg whites in this custard at all. Egg whites can make this custard airy, and we're not going for that at all. We're going for a rich, thick, and creamy custard with no air in it at all. This is going to give us the best, thick, creamy mouthfeel. So I have a small Tupperware here, and I'm just going to separate my egg whites into the Tupperware. Then I'm going to add the egg yolks into the mixing bowl of my stand mixer with the whisk attachment. And now remember I said if you don't have a stand mixer, you can also do this with a hand mixer. That is going to be totally fine for this recipe. Once you have your egg yolks in your mixing bowl, your egg whites are in your Tupperware, we're going to throw these in the fridge so we can use these later. Next, we're going to add 226 grams of cane sugar to our egg yolks. So make sure to check on your milk, make sure you don't burn it, turn the heat off, and it can just sit on the stove and stay warm until we are finished with this step. So then we're going to mix our egg yolks for about 2 to 3 minutes until they've lightened in color and they turn fluffy. So you want to do this on a low to medium speed, so I'm going to use speed 2 to 4 on my stand mixer. And these egg yolks are like a bright sunshine yellow color right now. We want them to turn into a pastel yellow, like an Easter egg color yellow. So once we have our egg yolks and our sugar whipped up to a light and fluffy, light yellow color, then it's time to add our flour. So I have 57 grams of all-purpose flour that I'm adding to the egg yolk and sugar mixture. So now that we have our all-purpose flour in with our sugar and our egg yolks, we're just gonna mix this for a minute or two to combine the flour completely. And just like with the sugar, if you notice some stuck around the sides of the mixing bowl, this is a small batch of custard for a stand mixer, so you might notice that some flour bits are stuck on the sides. We can just scrape that down. And you can use a spatula, but I just use the whisk because it's so much easier. So once the sugar, flour, and egg yolks are completely combined, then we're going to add our warm milk into this mixture. So we're gonna turn the mixer back on to low, and we want it to be mixing on low as we slowly add in the milk. Because the milk is warm, you wanna add it in slowly because we have raw egg yolks in this mixture. And so we want to slowly bring these egg yolks up to temperature without having them hit the heat too fast and too hard. So that's why we heat the milk just a little bit. So that's why it doesn't have to be an exact temperature. We just want it to be warm so that it can slowly bring up these egg yolks to temperature before we put them over the stovetop to cook them even more. So a little tip for you guys, if you want to pour your milk into something with a spout like a Pyrex measuring cup, you can do that. That will make it easier to pour it into the stand mixer as the mixer is going, or especially if you're mixing it by hand with a hand mixer, that might help you guys out a little bit too, especially if your pot does not have a spout like mine. So we're going to turn the mixer on low and then slowly add in our milk. And now you may notice that your whisk has chunks of sugar and egg yolk on it. There's probably some that's gonna be stuck into the bottom of the mixing bowl as well, especially if you have a stand mixer like this, because these KitchenAid bowls tend to have like little cavity in the bottom where stuff gets stuck. So you wanna go ahead and scrape that down, mix it back up together so it's smooth as it can be. So once you don't have any visible chunks of egg yolks and sugar, then it's time to transfer this to our pot. So if you guys want to use the same pot that you heated the milk in for the custard, you have to wash it before doing so. This is going to ensure that there's no milk remnants on the pot, because if you have that little film of milk on the pot, then it can actually burn in your custard. So that's why I'm getting a new pot. So I'm using my stainless steel 3-quart pot here. I highly recommend using a stainless steel, but if you have like a non-stick ceramic like the other caraway pot I was using, that one works totally fine too. And then next, you wanna make sure that you guys have a high heat spatula. We are going to be stirring this custard over the stovetop for an extended period of time, and the spatula is never going to leave the pot. So you want to make sure that you have a high heat spatula so that your spatula doesn't become warped and bent at the end of this custard baking process. I will link this high heat spatula in the description so you guys can pick one up. Let me tell you, this one withstands the heat. So now we're gonna add our custard mixture into our pot. And you may see some chunks of sugar or egg yolk at the bottom. Now that it's sat here for just a minute, that's okay, just dump everything in. See, there's like a little bit of egg yolk and sugar sticking to the bottom of this bowl. That's okay, we're just gonna get everything in here. So now we're gonna talk about some tips and tricks before we get started so you guys can make the best smooth and creamy custard with ease. So the process of making custard is putting this mixture over the stovetop over low to medium heat. And depending on your range, you may wanna go lower, especially if you guys are new to making custard. I'd rather you guys cook it at a lower temperature for a little bit longer than cook it at a higher temperature and possibly burn the custard. And so if you have a very powerful range like I do, I have the Cafe dual fuel range with the gas cooktop. Depending on which burner you're using, some may be stronger than others, and so I will cook this on a lower temperature versus at my bake shop, I had electric range, and so I would cook this on medium all the time. Sometimes medium high if we were in a hurry, but we were professionals. So depending on your range, go low to medium, see what works for you guys, and either one is fine. So when you first put this custard over the heat, it's gonna seem like nothing is happening, and that's totally okay. The mixture is gonna take a minute or two to heat up. You still wanna make sure that you guys are stirring consistently. And so this is the kind of stir you guys wanna have the entire time you're making custard. You wanna be stirring consistently, and you wanna scrape the entire part of the pot. So all the sides, the whole bottom, you don't wanna miss anything. So just go around the pot in a circle and a zigzag, like all of these different motions, and make sure that you guys are scraping the bottom of the pot the entire time. And it doesn't have to be fast or vigorous the whole time. This should be fairly simple to do, especially if you guys are heating at the right temperature. So a couple things to look out for when you guys are making custard. If you do notice that there's like a couple lumps or clumps forming in your custard, like little round balls, that means that you guys are not stirring either consistently enough or fast enough, or your heat is too high. So if you notice that you have those little round balls or clumps, that's when you want to stir vigorously and fast, and that will remove and smooth out those lumps. And then the second thing you guys want to look out for is possible burning of your custard. And now this can mainly only happen if you guys are at too high of a heat or if you're not stirring evenly or consistently at all. So what that will look like is you'll start to see little brown specks that will pop up on the bottom of the custard, and then they'll start mixing into the custard. So that's basically the egg yolks and the sugar just melting and burning on the bottom of the pan. So either you're not scraping that side where that's happening, or you walked away from your custard, or we're not stirring, or the heat is possibly just too high. So if you guys do notice you're getting those burn spots, check your heat, you can always lower it. Or make sure that you're stirring the entire part of the pan and getting all the spots. But if you guys do have some burn spots in your custard, the best thing is you can just pick them out with a spoon after the next step, and the rest of the custard is gonna be totally fine. Trust me, we've done that quite a few times at the bakery when training new staff on how to make custard. So at least it's an easy fix, but just so you know, that's what the little pieces of brown are if you see that in your custard. So as we're stirring the entire time, just like this, maybe a little bit fast here or there, if you see little clumps forming, that's okay. The custard is going to start to bubble, and then it's going to start to thicken. And so once it thickens, it's going to be done. So this whole process is going to take only about 10 minutes. And so you just want to make sure that you're standing over the stove the entire time, stirring and watching your custard to make sure that everything is going smoothly. So let's start cooking this custard. And now it's going to take a minute for everything to heat up before this can start cooking, so it may seem like nothing's happening at first. That's okay, just keep gently stirring the custard. It's going to start to cook on the bottom, as you can see right here. This is the egg mixture starting to cook, and you'll be able to feel this with your spatula. It's also going to start to bubble a little bit as it cooks. You guys want to make sure that you're scraping the bottom of the pan, the whole pan. That's how you guys will get chunks, lumps, or burnt parts, is if you're missing a part of the pan as you're stirring. And now to check to see if your custard is done, we call this a spatula trick at my bakery. Take your spatula, run it through the pan. If the custard doesn't move and fall back into where the spatula was, then it's done. So this is ready. And as you can see, this is nice and thick. It's a bright yellow. It's super creamy. There's no lumps in this. So once your custard is nice and thick, then this is done. So the next step is adding in 57 grams of salted butter to this custard. And now this can be cold, straight from the fridge. It can be room temperature. It could even be melted. It does not matter because the hot custard is going to melt this butter as we stir it in anyways. Now you're just going to stir up this butter until it's completely combined into the custard. So for this 4th of July cream pie, all you need is vanilla extract to flavor this custard. So I have a large mixing bowl here, and I'm going to transfer the custard to the mixing bowl because it's going to need to go in the fridge. So the mixing bowl is going to be a little bit easier to put in my fridge instead of this pot. So for my vanilla custard, I'm just adding 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And then we're just going to stir this in until it's completely combined. So the next step is going to be putting this custard in the fridge, and we have to let it chill completely before we can make the whipped cream and fold it in, which is going to be the next step. And the best thing about this true custard is it doesn't create a film on top like puddings would, so you don't have to cover it and press it with plastic wrap like you do for many other pudding style type desserts. So while the custard is chilling in the fridge, then it's time to make the graham cracker crust. And now these boxes come with 3 of these little graham cracker sleeves in a box. So to make this recipe, we're gonna need 1.5 sleeves or about 204 grams. And we wanna crush these up before adding them to the food processor because it's gonna make it much easier for the food processor to mix everything together. So you can do this in the package before we even put them into the food processor. It's a good way to get out some aggression on some graham crackers. And so I only added 1 package of graham crackers in here first because I have a little secret trick that we use at my bake shop that I'm gonna share with you guys. So if you guys layer graham crackers, then butter, then cane sugar, then the rest of the graham crackers, it's really gonna help mix up this graham cracker crust faster and easier. This is because the butter is in the middle. It's like sandwiched into the middle of the graham crackers and the sugar, so everything has a chance to coat that butter, which makes it less likely that it's gonna get stuck on the sides of the food processor. So this is gonna make graham cracker crust so much faster. So next I'm gonna add in the butter, and I have 113 grams of salted butter. You just wanna make sure that your butter is very soft before adding it into the food processor. Look at how soft this butter is. So super spreadable, just like perfect for toast. This is how we want it for graham cracker crust. Next, we have 57 grams of cane sugar. Then I have the other half package of graham crackers right here, and I'm just gonna break these up and put them right on top of the butter. Then you're gonna food processor this on high. And I'm gonna share one more trick that I use at my bake shop. It really helps if you shake the food processor. And it may sound silly, but it really works. It helps because the blade is at the bottom of the food processor. So as everything mixes at the bottom, that stuff can food processor quicker. And the stuff at the top can get kind of stuck up there. So if you guys are shaking the food processor, that stuff from the bottom will come up to the top, and the stuff from the top will go down to the bottom and get mixed faster. And when you own a bakery, faster is always better. So we have no butter stuck to the sides of this food processor, and that's because we use the layering trick with the butter, the graham crackers, and the sugar. So you should have a pretty fine crumb here. There should be no chunks of graham cracker, no bits of butter. If your butter is soft, you really should have no butter chunks happening at all. That's why it's important to have soft butter for graham cracker crust. So you guys can save your butter wrapper, and it's perfect for greasing your pie dish. So next step is you want to dump all the graham cracker crust into the pie dish. And then my process for forming the graham cracker crust of the pie dish, and this is how I taught everyone at my bake shop, is I like to kind of smooth out the graham cracker crust at first, just to kind of get it all even. And then I'm gonna go around the pie dish and pull up onto the sides first. And just go all the way around and pull up that crust, just lightly pressing it into the sides of the dish. And then I'm just gonna fill in the middle with the remaining pie crust. And now your pie crust is ready to bake. And we're baking this at 350 degrees for about 5 minutes or until golden brown around the edges. Once your custard is cooled completely, then it's time to make the whipped cream, and we're gonna fold this into the custard. So to make the whipped cream, it's just my classic whipped cream recipe. We're doing 2 cups of heavy whipping cream, 1 tablespoon of cane sugar, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. So we're just gonna add all 3 of these ingredients to our stand mixer with the whisk attachment. So just like you were making whipped cream for anything else, we're just gonna mix this starting on low to avoid splattering. Then gradually increase the speed as the mixture starts to thicken. Whisk until you have stiff peaks. And once your whipped cream has stiff peaks, then it's ready. So once your custard is completely cooled, we have our whipped cream made. Now it's time to put them together. So this amount of whipped cream is actually going to be half for the top and half for mixing inside the custard. So if you guys want to weigh this out, you can totally do that, or you can also just kind of eyeball it as well. That's fine too. So if you want to weigh this, it's going to be 8 ounces each. 8 we're going to fold into the custard, and then 8 ounces we're going to add on top for the whipped cream. So I weighed out 8 ounces here, and this is going to be my topping. I'm going to set this bowl aside. Now we want to fold in the remaining 8 ounces of whipped cream into the custard. So I like to do this about half at a time. This is because the custard is pretty stiff from sitting in the fridge. So folding it in a little bit at a time is going to allow you to easily mix this in without breaking the whipped cream. So we don't want to do that, which is why we're folding it in with a spatula and not putting it through a mixer. Once you have a little bit of whipped cream folded in completely and there's no streaks of whipped cream, then you can add a little bit more. Once you folded in all your whipped cream, you'll have a smooth and creamy, dreamy custard. So once your custard is ready to go, we have our cooled graham cracker crust and we have our whipped cream for the top. We're just going to add this custard into the pie dish and spread it out evenly. Once your custard is spread evenly into your pie crust, then it's time to add the remaining whipped cream on top. Now I like to use a cake spatula to spread out the whipped cream. This is what we use in my bakery, and this flat spatula just works so good to even out the whipped cream and make it nice and smooth. So this is how we did it at my bakery, and this is how I still like to do it, is I like to add the whipped cream on top, and then I like to leave a little border around the pie. So I like to see the crust, then a little bit of the custard, and then the whipped cream. Now that our cream pie is finished, I have fresh blueberries and strawberries. We are gonna use these to create a flag design for the perfect 4th of July pie. So decorating this pie is super easy, you guys. If I can do it, you can do it. I'm not a huge decorator, so I love simple pies like this that are really festive without much work at all. So you guys can use a butter knife to help you map out this flag design if it helps. Let me show you what I mean. So you can just take the butter knife and make a little triangle shape here for the blue. And then you can take your butter knife and make wherever you want the lines to go for the strawberries. And the best thing about this whipped cream topping is if you don't like what you did, just go ahead and smooth it out again and start over. It's that simple. And now we have a delicious 4th of July cream pie. This simple pie recipe is sure to be a hit at your 4th of July party. If you guys want to make this ahead of time, just make sure that you cover it completely in plastic wrap so it doesn't dry out. Then go ahead and just pop it in the fridge until the time of the party. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like and leave a comment below. And if you want more summer dessert recipes just like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button and join me next time in the kitchen.